Could China and America fight a war in the South China Sea? Neither China nor the United States want war. At least, not in the near future. China's military buildup notwithstanding, the People's Liberation Army and its components are not ready to fight the United States. The US, for its part, would surely prefer to avoid the chaos and uncertainty that any military conflict with China would create. Nevertheless, both China and the United States are making commitments in the South China Sea that each may find difficult to back away from. Over the past 2 weeks, these commitments have generated a war of words that analysts of the relationship have found troubling. The key problems focus on China's efforts to expand islands in the Spratlys, which could theoretically provide the basis for claims to territorial waters. The insistence of the United States on freedom of navigation could bring these tensions to a boil. It appears that Beijing is committed to defending the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea as an integral part of Chinese territory, a position that the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea does not support. Washington has other ideas and has maintained that it will carry out freedom of navigation patrols in areas that China claims as territorial waters. The prospects for conflict are clear. If U.S. ships or aircraft enter waters that China claims, then Chinese sailors, soldiers, and pilots need to take great care about how they respond. A militarized response could quickly lead to escalation, especially if American forces suffer any kind of serious damage. In such a case, a freedom of navigation patrol could put China in an awkward position relative to the third party. China and the United States have already come close to conflict over aircraft collisions. When a U.S. Navy EP-3 reconnaissance plane collided with a People's Liberation Army naval F-8 fighter in 2001, it led to weeks of recriminations and negotiation before the crew of the P-3 was returned to the United States and the plane was returned. If China decides to go ahead and declare an air defense identification zone over the South China Sea, matters could become even more complicated. The United States made an elaborate display of ignoring China's air defense identification zone in the East China Sea. But China has greater interests and a greater presence in the South China Sea. Another declaration would almost certainly incur a similar reaction from the United States, putting American and Chinese planes into close proximity. Many analysts are arguing that the People's Liberation Army and Navy needs to push its submarines past the first island chain in order to seriously threaten U.S. access to China's littoral. Preparing for this would require increasing the tempo of the People's Liberation Army Navy's submarine operations, which would more often put China's boats in proximity with Japanese and American subs. To be sure, Chinese submarines are loud enough that U.S. boats should have plenty of time to get out of their way, but the same could be said of Soviet boats for much of the Cold War. Accidental war is rare, but not impossible. Common to all of these scenarios is the potential that Chinese, or less likely, American public opinion might become so inflamed as to box in policymakers. If Xi Jinping, who has made assertive foreign policy a cornerstone of his administration, feels that he cannot back down and survive politically, then things could get unpredictable very quickly. As U.S. military news channel has argued, China is playing offense in the South China Sea. By establishing facts on the ground, it is creating a situation in which normal U.S. behavior looks like destabilizing intervention. What's less than clear is that Beijing fully understands the risks of this strategy, or the dangers of pushing the United States Navy on freedom of navigation, one of the long-term core interests of the United States. And given that governments sometimes don't even understand that they're playing a dangerous game until they find themselves in the middle of it, a great deal of caution is warranted. Thank you.